Hi, and welcome to this edition of the Everyday Editor. I'm John Crossman, and thanks for watching. In this podcast, we're continuing our list of the characteristics of a natural video editor. If you can be a natural at anything, it stands to reason that you could be a natural video editor. And I learned early on in my career that as I discovered about myself and as I discovered about the job, I came up with 8 characteristics that I personally had that I felt helped me be an effective video editor. So the next one I'm going to talk about is musical. I have loved music my whole life. My parents used to have 78s, believe it or not, which are records that spin at 78 RPM as opposed to 33 1/3 like an LP or a single that would spin at 45 RPM. So an old record player. And my parents had several Broadway musicals, and I used to listen to those all the time. And once I got into my teenage years, then of course I started buying records, and the rest was history. But when I was going into my 6th grade year of school, that was the first year that school actually had a choir. And I found out who the choir teacher was, and went to the school a couple weeks before, or a couple of days, I don't remember specifically when, but before school started, I went and found the choir room, and there was a teacher in there, and I proudly announced to them that I was going to be in choir, and they probably went, great, leave me alone. But anyway, the point I'm making is that I always had an interest in music, always loved music, and to this day still play music and write music. And learned the guitar in high school and started learning the bass. And then after high school, I traveled for 2 years in a touring musical group, which I played guitar one year and bass the next year. And so my life has been intertangled with music for my entire life. And what a musical ability or a musical characteristic helps you with is being able to pick out the rhythm. I talked in the last podcast about, narrators speak with a certain cadence, and that can come from the way the script is written, but everyone kind of has a way that they speak. And one of the things that I would do that would help a news story, just a generic news story, seem more polished, was I would use the rhythm that the reporter talked with to help motivate when to change shots. And so it's a subtle thing, it's not a glaring thing, but I believe having a musical background is very helpful in hearing the rhythm that people speak with. When you're editing interviews together, people in interviews will also speak with a rhythm. The world around you, life has a rhythm. And certainly, of course, music has a rhythm. If you have to edit things that have music, which I do all the time now, I always rely on music. You see the open to this podcast is cut to music. I found the music and chose that first before I put the graphics together. And the reason it all is coordinated and ends the way it does is on purpose, because that reinforces the rhythm of the opening clip of music. So I think having a natural musical ability, you don't have to play an instrument, you don't have to sing, but what you do need is just to be able to have a sensitivity to the rhythm around you. And I think that can help make you an effective editor. Next is logical. I got a Quora question several months ago going, why doesn't anyone break the mold of, telling a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end? Or has anybody done that, Well, the reason people don't do that is because that's not the way people have told stories from when people first started telling stories. A story always has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so will the videos that you do. The exception might be, a cat pawing at a dog, or a dog pawing at a cat, or knocking the kitty into the tub or something. But even those, in a miniature way, they do have a beginning, a middle, and you see the dog with the kitten on the tub. That's the beginning. The dog comes over and pauses and then nudges the cat into the tub. That's the action, that's the climax of the piece. And then the cat, climbing out and shaking the water off is the end of the piece, the end of the story. But editing is strongest when it follows a logical building order. The reason TV shows don't start on a close-up, or movies, or really any effective visual media, and you can break these rules. I mean, there are times, rules are rules, but rules are made to be broken, or so they say. And there are certainly times where I have broken rules, so it doesn't, when I say it's important to have a logical bent, it will help you tell better stories. It'll help your viewers, which is really what you're trying to serve, follow the story if it has a logical progression in it. That's why you start with a wide shot. Oh, we're in Washington, D.C. at the White House. I can tell from the opening shot that it's Washington, it's the White House, it's dark outside, and then when I go inside to see the first dialogue or hear the first dialogue, I already have at least 3 big pieces of background information. They must be working late. Maybe it's a crisis. The details may not matter at that point, but there's a logic to the way you tell a story. There's a logic in the way that you edit. How does the second cut relate to the first cut? How does the third cut relate to the second and the first cut? There doesn't always have to be some ironclad logic working, but if you overall are open to having logical progressions in your stories, they'll be much more effective in their storytelling, and for your viewers feeling satisfied when your video is done. They'll go, yeah, they started with this mountain, and they dug and they dug and they dug, and now there's a big mine there, and I understand the progression. If we had started with the mine shaft and never saw the mining, it wouldn't be as logical, it wouldn't be as helpful to the viewer, it wouldn't be as clear. And the idea, with editing, in my opinion, is to make the message clear, is to make the message effective. Now, I've worked with some editors who are more interested in being, artsy-fartsy and avant-garde and, let's not follow any rules. The problem is the stories aren't very good. People look at them and go, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know what happened. And, sometimes that editing makes it to network TV. So I'm not saying it never is done. I'm just saying, for me, I think having a strong logical streak enables you to tell a more effective story, and that's what my goal is as an editor. It's not to show off necessarily my editing skills. It's to serve the viewer, serve the story and the storyteller. And so having a strong logical basis for the motivation that you have, for the shots that you pick, the ones that you pick, the order that you pick them in, how you transition between them, it helps to have that logical thing. And to me, it's really served me very well in a career in editing. So you mix this idea of putting things in a logical, understandable, relatable order, and you add in the rhythm of life, and you add in intangibles that you've observed in the world around you, plus the fact that you know where you're going in your mind because you visualized how this story should play out, you become a very powerful editor. So, in the next podcast, I'll talk about the next two, which are interpersonal communication skills and builder. Thanks for watching. This is The Everyday Editor, and I'm John Crossman. We'll see you on the editing room floor.